August 25th, 2020, I'm NBC 15 Chief Meteorologist Alan Sealls talking about what's left of Marco, that little tiny thing right there, and what's obviously next in the Gulf of Mexico, which is Hurricane Laura, a system now as a Category 1, 300 miles south of Mobile Bay on a path that's taking it to the west-northwest as a stronger hurricane. So there's where it sits right now. The computer projection from one particular model, which most models are pretty consistent, takes it west-northwest, then northwest, with the landfall sometime before sunrise on Thursday as a powerful storm. And in this projection, we see those bands of rain extending hundreds of miles out into the Gulf of Mexico. Those are feeder bands, and the feeder bands increase the risk of flash flooding, the risk of tornadoes. And even without that, look at the wind speed projected near landfall, going from 110 to 115 miles an hour. Remember, even this far out, that could be off by 10 to 15 miles an hour. So it could be an even stronger storm or a slightly less strong storm, but either way, it's a storm that will continue to cross through the Ohio Valley, weakening in terms of wind, but still carrying rain all the way into New England. Those of us in the central Gulf Coast and the NBC 15 area, no direct impact other than surf and dangerous rip currents. But look at the rain. Around Mobile, less than an inch in the next 3 days. Sabine Pass between Texas, Louisiana, 6-10 plus inches of rain. And same thing across central Arkansas. Within that corridor, anywhere from 6 to 10 to 12 inches of rain. That's a whole bunch. So flooding is an issue with this system. Wind is the initial issue, and that's why you have the hurricane warning. That warning goes from Lafayette all the way toward Houston and then northward into central Louisiana for winds over 75 miles an hour. East and west of that, tropical storm warnings, because it's still going to be a wind issue. And that wind that circulates around the hurricane is the wind that will drive water up against the coast. So Louisiana, a storm surge warning where water levels could be 5 to 10 feet above average, and even higher within some of those bays where the water is funneled farther inland. Notice also you are under a storm surge watch if you are in Harrison or Hancock counties across southern Mississippi. The hurricane hunters, they've been busy, and not just the Air Force Reserve hurricane hunters, the NOAA hurricane hunters, and this is just the last 24 hours. And when you see two planes in the storm at one time, they're flying at much different levels. Hurricane hunters, Air Force hurricane hunters fly lower, NOAA flies higher, and they are sampling the atmosphere to get data, to figure out what this system is doing, and that data goes into computer models to figure out what it may do. And that's why at times you'll see the planes flying way out into the western Gulf of Mexico, because that's where it's going. And otherwise, there's not a lot of detailed data there. So hurricane hunters constantly looking for information, which gives us a better picture of how the wind circulates around the system. But they also let us know what the wind is at, say, 15,000 feet, going up about 3 miles in the atmosphere. And also the winds at about 36,000 feet, 30 to 36, because that also is part of what steers a hurricane and a tropical storm. But here's the difficulty of figuring out which way it's going. When you look at all that data and even a good computer model, it's tough to separate all of this, and the steering wind will depend on the strength of the storm. For those of us on the north central Gulf Coast, we've got a coastal flood advisory and a high surf advisory and deadly rip currents. A late afternoon view at Gulf Shore shows those waves that are up. Tomorrow they'll be 3, 4, 5, 6 feet. And of course the rip current, which can pull you out even if you are a strong swimmer. So you are not going to get in that water. Think of it as going to a store where they sell china or something delicate. You can look, but don't touch. Don't get in the water. Here's our forecast overnight into tomorrow, much like today. Scattered thunderstorms, and our overall rain coverage will be about 40%, which is not bad, especially considering Laura is moving in the Gulf of Mexico. Going into the weekend, 60% rain coverage by Friday, and then we'll settle at about 50% to end the month, and then start September, which is on the way. And remember, early September is typically the peak of hurricane season. I'm NBC 15 Chief Meteorologist Alan Sealls.